Whether if you have an early pick or a late pick, there's so many different ways that you can build your fantasy football team heading into the new season. And one thing I always like to say is that you can't win your fantasy league based on your draft, but you can definitely lose it. Let's make sure you don't do that here today. So, what I want to do today is I want to go through the first four or so picks, talk about some strategies with each and every pick, and it's something in the back of your mind. Keep it in the back of your mind, right? How you could build your team going into a 12-team league here in 2024, excuse me. Now, I did these videos here based on a half PPR format. So again, it can apply for the standard leagues if they're still out there, but also the full PPR leagues, which I'm always in. But at the 101, if you have the number one pick in fantasy football, I think whatever format it is, it has to be Christian McCaffrey. I think this is a guy that he's more than a running back, and he got paid like it this offseason. To me, especially with how many receivers are going in the first round and how many great receiving options there are in rounds 2 through 4, you have to go out there and get the best player at a position of need. In this case, it is the running back position. I think McCaffrey is the 101. Again, a bad week for McCaffrey is under 20 points on a weekly basis. Now, coming back on the turn at the 212 and 3-1, you can go a lot of different directions here. Personally, I think if you have McCaffrey, you have your number one play on your board. And then you have the opportunity to get your number one tight end and a top 10 level wide receiver at that 2-3 turn. I think if you take that approach, you take a very balanced approach, and you also get a positional advantage here at the tight end position with Sam Laporta in this case. And of course, Michael Pittman, to me, still a top 10 level wide receiver. You get him there at that turn. Now, you come back around here at the 4-5 turn, and I think Stefon Diggs is a guy that is definitely slipping down the boards. To me, well, I'll say this. In ADP, he's going in the third round. To me, that's a little too high for where I think he should be drafted. I think the fourth round is a perfect spot for Stefon Diggs, if not even lower. And exactly the same for CJ Stroud. I think fourth round is a little too pricey for me for CJ Stroud, saying that he's strictly a pocket passer. So I think if you take him in the fifth round there, again, it's at the turn. And why not? I mean, you get a stack here, right? Maybe it's not the best possible stack on this Texans offense, but you still get an elite stack here in that Texans offense that should be scoring a lot of points on a weekly basis. So with this approach, you get a top 5 level quarterback with a stacking opportunity there with Stefon Diggs. You get another top 10 wide receiver, maybe the number one tight end and player on your boards. They have a very balanced approach. But again, I like this approach if you're at the 101. At the 102, here with the second overall pick, you could go CeeDee Lamb. To me, it's still Tyreek Hill by a hair. I would go Tyreek there at the 101. And then in round 2, I think, at this point, if a guy like Josh Allen is still on the board, go after him, right? This is a guy that is going to have to be Superman on a weekly basis just for this team to win, let alone dominate. So let's go out there and get the number one quarterback on most people's boards. So there you have the number one wide receiver and quarterback. Nice way to start your drafts. Now at the third round, depending on your belief of Cooper Kupp, I still believe in him. I still think he has top 12, wide receiver one potential. Maybe not in his offense, but I think this Rams offense is going to score a lot of points. And if Cooper Kupp's healthy, he's on a revenge tour. And I think he can kind of revert back to what he kind of was at the start of last season, still giving you about 18 to 20 points a game. And if that's the case, it's a steal in the third round, especially in full PPR formats. And then in round 4 and 5 here, again, you're kind of at that turn. I think getting some running backs here can definitely balance out your team, right? Whether if you want to go with a tight end here in the fourth round. To me, I think getting an Aaron Jones and getting a James Conner, two top 20 running backs for me, at the 4 and 5 turn. I think that's huge. And again, it balances out your team. So you have two top 20 running backs, two top 12 receivers, and of course, maybe the player that's going to score the most fantasy points for yet another year in Josh Allen. Not a bad start to your draft, if you ask me. And the third spot, we don't take a quarterback with this approach. And this is where I wanted to switch it up here, give you guys a different look here if you're in the early parts of your draft. If you want to go more wide receiver heavy, maybe if you are in a full PPR format, this is an approach you can take. This is a hero running back strategy, give or take. CeeDee Lamb, I think, at the third spot. Those are your top 3 picks. McCaffrey, Tyreek, and CeeDee Lamb, whatever order they go in, they're going to be your top 3 picks here in 2024. You grab him at your third overall pick. You feel great about that. for obvious reasons. Contract year, he gets a ton of targets. He's the heartbeat of that Cowboys offense. Derrick Henry here at the late, I think the 210, excuse me. That's a bit of a question mark here, and I think that's the biggest question mark maybe with this team, strictly for the fact that running backs at his age switching teams don't have a great track history of being relevant in fantasy football. However, I think this is a guy that is not like those other running backs. This is an anomaly of I guess, a stature of a running back in Derrick Henry. He's a true powerhouse running back. He's going to get all the goal line touches in this offense. And my point that I keep resorting back to is if Gus Edwards can put up almost 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns last year, imagine what Derrick Henry can do. At the third round, I think Travis Kelce, if he's there, you're going to have your choice between a guy like Travis Kelce or Trey McBride. I like your options either way there. But Kelce, of course, if you want the name value, why not? Let's get some old guys there in Derrick Henry and Travis Kelce, and let's hope for one last elite season. And then in rounds 4 and 5, if we wanted to really attack these wide receiver positions, we can get some guys that are falling down draft boards. Guys like T. Higgins, which, of course, now we, I guess, believe he's going to be a Cincinnati Bengal going into next year. But he's still in an offense in a contract year. He wants a lot of money, whether if it's in Cincinnati or another team. If he wants that, he's going to have to come out and play really good football this year, right? Especially if he wants top dollar. So I like his upside in 2024. And to get a guy that could finish top 10 in the 4th round is an absolute steal. DeVonta Smith, it's a lot of the same. If any small injury happens to A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith is going to be a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football. That is the only thing holding him back from being a round 2 pick here on a yearly basis is what I'm getting at. So you get 3 top 25, top 30 wide receivers. You get Derrick Henry, of course, top 10 running back, and of course, Travis Kelce. On some people's list, he could still be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football. What I want to round out here with is an approach where we don't take a tight end. So we've had an approach where we've taken a tight end and a quarterback, just the tight end. We're back to here where we're not taking a tight end here. So again, the onesie positions like quarterbacks and tight ends, you want to get those because if you can get an elite option, you have a positional advantage on a week-to-week basis. When you have Kelce, Mark Andrews, or at the quarterback, Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes, you have positional advantages over your opponents on a weekly basis because those guys are so dominant at their positions. But outside of the elite options at quarterback and tight end, they're dime a dozen, right? It's really spot starts and it's matchup based. That's why we want to hammer the wide receiver and the running back position so much. And that's why I have these starts where you're at least getting a running back and a receiver here in the first couple rounds of your draft. That's where the depth is. That's what we got to attack. Here with the 4th pick, I think Ja'Marr Chase should be the 4th pick off the board. I think he has a little bit more upside than Justin Jefferson. And I know Justin Jefferson has made a career out of whether if it's Kirk Cousins or whatever quarterback was replacing Kirk Cousins. He's made his legendary start to his career with whatever quarterback was at the helm. He makes bad quarterbacks look mediocre, right? That's how good Justin Jefferson is in his own right. But I think Ja'Marr Chase, this is a guy that legitimately has potential to go for 2,000 yards this season. Last year, I made that bold prediction with Tyreek Hill. I was close, and he probably would have got that record if he didn't get hurt. This year, I'm going to ride with Ja'Marr Chase. If I had to bank on one guy to do it, it would be Ja'Marr Chase. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason why you draft him here at the 4th pick. He's still been a top 5, top 10 level wide receiver every single year of his career, especially last year on a per game basis. He was still very dominant despite all the injuries. But, of course, I think if you want to come back around at the 2-9, getting a guy like Drake London. So you have your guy in Ja'Marr Chase that gives you an elite floor and elite upside. And Drake London, he doesn't give you the safest floor, but I think he gives you really high upside now, being the number 1 in a Kirk Cousins-led offense. So, boom, you have 2 potential top 10 wide receivers to start off your drafts. In round 3 and 4, these are 2 guys that are definitely on the bubble as far as are they going to have a great season? Or, are they going to kind of fall off and just be mediocre? I think these guys give you very safe floors. Guys like Josh Jacobs, guys like Ken Walker, but they give you very high upsides because Ken Walker, we're waiting for that breakout dominant season that he could be a superstar level running back. And the same can be said about a guy like Josh Jacobs. He's already been a superstar. Let's see him get back to the top of the mountain here especially because Jordan Love loves to dump off to the running backs. There's a reason Aaron Jones had such a dominant PPR season last year, and Josh Jacobs, at this point in their careers, is the better running back than Aaron Jones. So again, both those guys give you some safer floors, but high upside. And then in round 5, why not? Let's go get a stack. If you can't tell, I like getting stack opportunities. Ja'Marr Chase, Joe Burrow, one of the best stacks you could possibly have in fantasy football. Now, I will say this before we get out of here. On Wednesday, I want to go through rounds 5 through 8. And then next week, we'll go through rounds 9 through 12. So again, if you guys are interested, of course, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. But taking a quick look here, I went through these drafts and I drafted from every single position as if I were drafting from that spot. And these were the kind of, these were the results that I ended up coming up with. Now, again, some guys could go higher or lower based on the day. Of course, we all know that opinions change throughout time. But I think these are the starts for the first 4 picks, 3 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, and of course, a lot of wide receivers and running backs. But let me know what you guys think down below. What is your favorite approach here from spots 1 through 4? And of course, I'll get back to you guys in the comments as quickly as I possibly can. On the road to 20K. I'll see you guys tomorrow.